The Game Boy was pretty sweet. It had Tetris, it had Pokemon, it had a whole load of great original games. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about celebrating the greatest Game Boy games from popular existing franchises. Now, when people talk about classic games, it's almost always the NES. People don't talk too much about the Game Boy iterations from those beloved franchises, but there are a lot of really good ones, and this is just my own personal opinion, but I have found that my opinion is usually the right one. So, let's dive in with the top 10 Game Boy spin-off games. Number 10. Samus Aran lands on the planet SR-388 on a mission to exterminate the Metroids once and for all. Since Metroid 2 Return of Samus is only the second game in the long-running series, you can guess that technically she fails her mission, but boy does she give it a good go. Right from the start there's a counter showing you how many of the alien bastards still need dying, and it's a real strong driving force to get you even deeper into the planet's caves and wipe them all out. It's got the exploration, the power-ups, and the Metroid hunting system makes it different enough from the rest of the series to stand out. But the best thing about Metroid 2? Not one time does Samus ever monologue about the baby. Number 9. Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge wasn't the first time the series came to the Game Boy, but it is by far and away the best. It's got everything that made the series a hit on the NES. The weapons, the action, the difficulty, and there's a lot more platforming and timing-based sections than you might expect, so it's not just a total clone of the original formula. But still, I'd put this one right up there with its full-color counterparts in terms of quality. But steer clear of Castlevania the Adventure though, that one sucks. Number 8. You know the Red Armor? Yeah, fuck that guy, sweeping in from the sky, turning brave heroes into a pile of bones. What an asshole. But when he's not making trouble for Arthur, the gargoyle they call Firebrand keeps busy by saving his own realm from invaders. Gargoyle's quest, Ghosts and Goblins, ditches the armored hero and his fixed jumps in favor of a totally banging, hovering, fire-spitting, wall-clinging system, but it sure keeps the series' trademark difficulty. It was so good that they made 2 sequels to it, and put them on the home consoles instead. The dude even got a spot in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and it's all thanks to this black and white delight. Number 7. Okay, it's a JRPG on the Game Boy where you collect monsters and have them fight other monsters so that they level up and get stronger. You guessed it, it's Dragon Warrior Monsters. Technically this one's for the Game Boy Color, but it works on the original Game Boy and apparently came out before the system did. And yeah, it's pretty much like they put Dragon Quest and Pokemon in a blender together and mixed up this delicious gaming smoothie. You fight, train, and breed your party of monsters to make them stronger, faster. Some of them can even cast the spell. No one's gonna get that joke, are they? Number 6. Kid Icarus sucks. Uprising on the 3DS, that's fantastic, but the NES Classic does not hold up. The lesser-known Game Boy alternative, Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters, however, is great. It's everything that the NES game should have been. It's got the action, but better. It's got the platforming, but better. It's got the going into rooms and buying items with the hearts of your fallen enemies, but better. People seem to forget about this one a lot. Even Kid Icarus Uprising pretends it doesn't exist. But it does. And it's good. Number 5. Mega Man had a lot of outings on the Game Boy. Most of them borrowed their Robot Master selection from the NES games, but Mega Man 5 came up with a brand new selection of baddies to fight. Aside from that, it's the same old Mega Man we know and love, except that instead of just firing a big shot when you charge up, he shoots out his fist at enemies. But there are tricky jumps, grueling levels, tough bosses. It's just a really good old-fashioned Mega Man game. And you can play it on the toilet. Number 4. While the previous games in this list have either been just as good as their home console counterparts or totally different, Super Mario Land is little more than a budget version of the original. But Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins sure ain't. It's got an overworld map full of varied themed levels like the inside of a whale or this giant Mario robot. A giant Mario robot! Oh, a new Super Mario Brothers U, what do you got? You know, Slippy Iceland, Desert Land, Cloudland. Well, fuck that, we're going to outer space, baby! And this was the first game to star Wario, who would go on to hijack the Mario Land series and turn it into Wario Land until Mario finally took it back on the 3DS. To think, without Mario Land 2, there'd be no Wario Land series, no WarioWare series, no Wario, and most tragic of all, no Waluigi.
Waluigi, #1!
Number 3. Ah, shit, this one is only for the Game Boy Color. Fuck it, I'm gonna keep it on here. It's Mario Tennis. You might think that this would just be a real basic, bare-bones companion piece to the N64 game, but it's so much more than that. It's a whole tennis RPG with characters to talk to, stats to level up, the works. And there are different modes and mini-games too. It's actually got more features than the N64 version. Hell, it's got more features than the 3DS version. And you can plug in a transfer pack and send your characters to play on the N64. Who'd have thought they would have put so much effort into a Mario Tennis game? Number 2. Donkey Kong is as classic as it gets. Makes sense they would put it on Game Boy. Yep, there it is. All 4 levels from the original game, now available on the go. And then it turns into this action puzzle platformer with a whole load of stages that require clever thinking and dexterity. The controls are tight, with trick jumps and athletic maneuvers to help you along. This game would much later inspire the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series, where they decided to make it more and more about these little wind-up toys for some reason. But for this Game Boy Classic, it's just solid Mario action through and through. Number 1. The sad truth is that pretty much all of the games on this list can be described as really good for a handheld game. People generally don't think of Belmont's Revenge as being one of the great old-school Castlevania games. Mario Land 2 can't get a look in between all the other great Mario platformers. And Mega Man 5? That's not Mega Man 2. There are Mega Man games that aren't Mega Man 2? Good God! And there's a certain stigma that comes with release on a handheld system, like that automatically makes it inferior to home console versions. Except, of course, for The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. In a series that has so many all-time classics to boast, Link's Awakening is right up there with the best of them. It's on the Game Boy, sure, but they spared no expense in making it just as good as its big brothers. It's got a whole island full of action, adventure, side quests, secrets to find, dungeons to explore, puzzles to solve, enemies to fight, bosses to destroy. It's awesome. In fact, it's the best game in any popular series to ever see a version released on the Game Boy. At least, in my opinion. And if you have a problem with my opinion, well, that's cool. Everyone's got their own favourites. Now get out of here, you little scamp. Go on, get out, get out.
Waluigi, #1!